Welcome into the betPARX post-game show presented by Ponley Hockey from Parx Casino in Bensalem, just 20 minutes north of Philadelphia. Your Philadelphia Eagles win their 8th straight and improve to 10-2 on the season, winning what many pundits called before the game tonight the biggest game on the NFL slate to date. Saquon Barkley is able to seal the deal for this Philadelphia Eagles team on a 25-yard touchdown run. Jalen Hurts and the Eagles offense in the second quarter of today's game able to get it going. They stalled in the third, but then took over in the fourth. And all in all, this linebacking core for the Philadelphia Eagles up to the challenge, as well as the rest of the defense when it came to not stopping, but certainly containing Derrick Henry. Looking at guys like Zach Bond, looking at guys like Nakobe Dean combining for 23 total tackles on the evening, amounting in to their 10th win of the season. Welcome in once again to the betPARX post-game show presented by Ponley Hockey. Marc Farzetta along with Seth Joyner and Derrick Gunn. And gentlemen, we were wondering who was going to be the better team. We all picked the Eagles to win. Seth, you had the closest score in our predictions earlier, but this was a great win over a very good football team tonight by the Eagles.
Well, I had the sense that this was going to be a defensive battle, just the way these two teams are constructed. But, man, Philadelphia, you got to be excited about this win because this is one of the elite teams in the National Football League from what they do offensively to what they're able to do defensively. And the Eagles' defense stood tall today. While the defense kind of sputtered in spots until Saquon could kind of get it together and they could find their rhythm offensively, listen, Jalen Hurts only threw 2 passes in the second half. 2 passes. That's unheard of, to throw 2 passes and actually score, 10 points in the second half? But I just got to give so much credit to this defense and the way that they played. The players that they lost along the way, guys in and out of the game, but guys being able to step up and be ready to answer the call when their opportunity presents itself. You got to give a lot of credit to Vic Fangio and what he's done with these young players on this defense. You very rarely see that. And when a starter goes out, another guy steps in and gets the job done the way that they need to get it done. But this is a big win for the confidence of this football team, and people can stop with the narrative, oh, but who have they played? Oh, who have they played? This is one of the top teams in the AFC, and they went into their house and beat them on their terms. This is a huge game. I just can't tell you how much this is going to affect this football team moving forward, especially when you think about the confidence of this football team to go in and beat a team like this in their place. When everybody said that you couldn't do it, when everybody said that you haven't really played anybody, there you go. There you go. This team is off and running, D-Gun.
You know, after watching this game, the first thing that came to mind was run the table. Run the table. You look at who they play the rest of the way. I don't know who can beat this team down the stretch, to be honest with you. I'm looking at the stats. Offensively, the Eagles only had 252 yards. 252 yards of offense against the Ravens. They had 8 penalties. The Ravens were the top offense of the league, averaging 427 yards a game. The Eagles held them well under the season average. I'm not even counting that last garbage touchdown drive. The play of the game for me defensively, Cooper DeJean plants Derrick Henry. It was like a WWE pile drive, just plants Derrick Henry. But that's the confidence that we see with these young players growing, man. I mean, they don't have a lot of veteran presence. Think about this. They don't have a lot of what we call veteran presence playing on their defense. It's a bunch of young guys who are molding together, who are playing together. And they're the #1 defense in the National Football League the way they're playing right now. And you look at who they have left on their schedule, who can beat them? If they play their game, who can beat them? The stats can be ugly, they win the game. They run up stats when they want it, they win the game. They may bog down for a while. All of a sudden, they turn on the juice offensively, score when they have to score. You can hold Saquon down for only so long, but you can't contain him forever. Boom, he busts another 25-yard touchdown. All of a sudden, you look up. He's got over 100 yards against the number one rushing defense in the National Football League, giving up 77 yards a game. This team hurts you, demoralizes you, wears you down in so many ways. That's the making of a championship team.
And that's one of the things that impresses me so much about this win, because often, if we're looking at wins over far inferior opponents,
yes,
far inferior than the Baltimore Ravens, for instance, how many times do we watch those games and we say, oh, look at this mistake by the Eagles. You can't do that against the upper echelon teams. The Eagles did not play a clean game by any means. You could even say the Eagles did not play their best game, even close to it this season. And if you look at the first quarter, 6 penalties by the Eagles committed in the first quarter. You're not supposed to be able to do that against upper echelon teams, and they did it in this game against the Ravens. They gave the ball to Saquon Barkley in their first possession. He got 12 yards. He didn't see the ball again in that first possession after that. They instead went to Will Shipley, and they went to Britton Covey. I don't know why that was part of the game plan, but apparently that was part of the game plan. But the Eagles in the second quarter then got back to their bread and butter. They found Dallas Goedert in the end zone. They were able to run the ball effectively with Saquon Barkley. Jalen Hurts had a nice run as well. They got A.J. Brown involved in some great play-action slants over the middle of the field, and they righted the ship. Now, they hit that wall a little bit there in the third quarter, albeit only 2 possessions. They only had 3 yards in that third quarter, and going into the fourth, they needed to get something going, and they were able to, again, get back to their bread and butter. Getting back to running the football, and on a 3rd and 7 being able to convert to Dallas Goedert before they set up what would be the game-clinching touchdown for the Eagles. But they faced adversity in this game, and I didn't think against a team like the Ravens they could face as much adversity as they did, and they were still able to still come out on top.
Well, I mean, they fell behind early, 9-0, and then they couldn't get anything going in the first half, and you begin to wonder, well, you know, where is this thing going to go? And then the Eagles' offense made some great adjustments. Every single time that the Ravens got in their 2-man high look, they ran the football with success. Every time that they loaded the box, they went play-action pass. They threw balls to A.J. Brown, slant routes, the high-low concept, you know, where right in the zone, in the middle of the zone, they did a good job of adjusting. And then they kind of fell asleep in the second half. It seemed like the Baltimore Ravens made the adjustment in the second half to what they were doing, and they started taking away the read options. A couple of times Jalen tried to run the ball, couldn't run, he couldn't get outside because they took the RPO away. The passing lane, balls got knocked down off the RPO in the pass situation. So they kind of stumbled a little bit, but then they went back to their roots. They went back to who they were. They started pounding the football again. They started running the football again. And you just know that sooner or later, if you keep wearing a team down with your run game, that at some point in time, Saquon Barkley is going to break one. Boom, there he goes, 25 yards, touchdown, game, set, and match. For all intents and purposes, it was over at that point. And then the defense, again, I keep going back to the defense because against this offense, against a dynamic player like Lamar Jackson and all the weapons that he has around him, for them to be able to hold them under their season average, D-Gun, of what they've averaged over 400 yards in total offense every single week. That's the first thing. The second thing, they're averaging 30 points a game. 30 points a game. And to your point, D, I don't even count that last 7 points because that's garbage time. They held them to 12 points up until that point. A team that averages 30 points a game, this football team is right where it needs to be. You got young guys that are ready to step in. That speaks to coaching, okay? We give this coaching staff, including Nick Sirianni, we give him a lot of hell all the time about his decision-making, about the offensive play calling. You know, but what we don't do is we don't give them credit for being able to make the adjustments in game, even though they look abysmal in the first quarter, sometimes throughout the first half. They find a way to make the adjustment, whether it's in the run game or in the pass game like they did in the first half, D-Gun. Listen, Jalen Hurts was efficient in the first half, 9-17, 104 yards, and a touchdown. What it did wasn't working, whatever they were doing in the second half, so they adjusted. They went to Saquon. Same thing in the defensive side of the ball. They didn't want to play a lot of man-to-man against this football team for fear of Lamar Jackson getting out of the pocket and nobody seeing him before he gains, you know, 30 yards down the field. So they played a lot of zone. But as the game went on, these players began to understand how to play the zone the proper way. Stop biting up on the short stuff. Play back and let's rally to the football. And in the second half, they did a marvelous job of just taking this game over in all phases of the game.
I loved how disciplined they were on the back end of the defense in pass coverage, how they umbrellaed. You look at how many times when Lamar stepped back to pass, he patted the ball and had to scramble and roll out many times to his weak side because there was nowhere to go with the football. We had talked on the pregame show about should they come out play action to try to throw Baltimore off their game. I said, no, stick with what got you to the dance this far. You know, they came out, ran, then they tried to run some play action. But in the final analysis, they ran the ball 33 times for $140 against a team giving up 77 yards rushing on the ground.
I will counter you with this. You didn't want them to come out and throw the ball early.
No.
Now, they came out and they dropped back past the ball. That's a big difference between coming out and play action passing, because when they got to the play action pass, and don't get it confused, when they run the RPO and they throw the ball, that's play action pass.
Right.
Okay? They did not play action pass early, but when they got to it, they started making hay off of it. A.J. Brown caught a lot,
3 catches on the drive you're talking about for 44 yards on the play action.
I understand that, but in the first half, he had 5 catches for 66 yards, for 13 yards per catch. So it was working. But when you come out against a team like this, you can't give them absolutes. It can't be absolute run, and it can't be drop back passes. What it has to be is you have to give them the illusion, because you're the #1 ranked rushing team in the National Football League. You have to give them the illusion that you're going to run the ball and then pull it back, because now the linebackers are late in their drops. They don't get any depth in their drops, and the safeties at the same time aren't getting. So now you got that hole between them where A.J. Brown was catching balls in the middle of the field. For everybody to say that Jalen can't throw it in the middle of the field, listen, his numbers were not, they were not eye-popping. But the passes that he threw, my gosh, they were like laser.
Yes.
They were in the right place. The accuracy was where it needed to be, and he threw it with conviction, and he played well. But the object, he says the main thing is the main thing. What's the main thing? The main thing is to win, and they figured out a way to win.
Yeah.
And to me, that speaks to coaching again. Let's give this coaching staff some credit for being able to make the adjustments and doing what was necessary to win the game. It wasn't pretty. I'm sure the Baltimore Ravens feel like and know that what they tried to do wasn't pretty. But at the end of the day, they got the W and they move on to the next game.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about our player of the game. We talked about players that we could bank on. When we talk about a player that performed to the absolute best of his ability, no better example than what Saquon Barkley was able to do tonight for your Philadelphia Eagles. In a battle of running backs, he was the brightest shining star. 23 carries, 107 yards, and a touchdown on that 25-yard run that he had to scamper into the end zone to put the game out of reach and in favor of the Eagles. Saquon Barkley, look, all eyes were on him. And when we were talking about what he could bring to the table in this game, we were talking about him versus Derrick Henry. And when you talk about excitement, and you talk about electricity, and you're talking about running backs, and you're talking about quarterbacks in this game, you're talking about 2 guys that could just take over at any minute. It was Saquon's night. Now, Derrick Henry still, 88 yards on the evening. A good game for him, but certainly not eye-popping. And when the Ravens needed him, he wasn't there. When Saquon Barkley was needed by the Philadelphia Eagles, especially on a huge drive there in the fourth quarter, he was there to answer the call.
And listen, there's no doubt about it. I mean, Devontae Smith called him Superman, and he does some Superman-type things. We knew that this was going to be a physical game. We knew that both of these running backs was going to get the ball multiple times. It was the team that was able to crack the code at some point in time. And, I've been watching film of blocking schemes, and I had Mike Quick on my podcast last week, and we were talking about it. I don't think that people understand what a genius Jeff Stoutland is, because as I'm watching film, I'm seeing blocking schemes that in all of my years of playing and all of my years of covering football in the National Football League, I've never seen before. They've got blocking schemes where they got a trap on the left and a trap on the right, and the running back can hit either trap. Now, I've never seen that before. So for a linebacker, when you're sitting there and you're watching that, you don't even know which way to go. You don't know. Your reads are in total conflict. And it's not just that play. It's a lot of the blocking schemes that you see across the board. You got a body on a body. And when they got the numbers right, like that 25-yard run, they had the numbers right. And you can get him to the second level. He's got one guy to beat. One guy missed the tackle, and nobody else put a hand on him. So a lot of that, you know, I give a lot of credit to Jeff Stoutland for what he's able to do, but I give credit to that offensive line because they keep working and keep working and keep adjusting throughout the game until they find the right mixture, the right combination, the right blocking scheme to spring him free. And when he's free, it's a wrap, man. It's a wrap. It's like poetry in motion.
And
beautiful to watch him run the ball.
It's not even just an offensive line. This offensive line is huge. They're huge and athletic. I mean, you got a 6'6" tackle on this side, a 6'8" tackle on that side, a 6'7", 380-pound guard here, a 6'6", 350-pound guard here. And they just lean on you and lean on you. You may stop them for a short period of time, but all of a sudden, their athleticism, their prowess just wears you down. It sucks the life out of you. And when your offense can't sustain drives and the defense gives the ball back, your defense is still winded. They don't have time. They don't have time to recover, and you got to go back out there and lean on these Mack trucks again. It's unbelievable what this team is capable of doing. You know, we talk a lot about the offense, but this defense, if you really think about it, has won a lot of games for this team. This young, ever-evolving defense has won a lot of games in terms of getting offenses off the field to get the ball back to their potent offense. You know, everybody talks about, you know, Devonta Smith out, they're going to have problems. No, they didn't. They didn't have problems. It's not the first time he's been out. When A.J. was out, it was different, but they didn't have problems. They still moved the ball. The concepts that Nick Sirianni, Kellen Moore have with this offense, okay, and let's give them their due because we criticized them early in the year, and now you have to praise them. They find ways to make plays, to pick up first downs, to get 20-plus yard plays, to keep the chains moving whenever they have to. It's like they lull you into complacency. How many times do we sit here going, what the heck is wrong with this offense? It's not moving. All of a sudden, boom, it just becomes a machine. And it's almost like they're bored, you know. And all of a sudden, they say, okay, enough of this mess. Let's come out of this and just take it to them. And they do it time and time again. They come up with an explosive drive, 7-8 minute drive, a big play. Over the top of you thinking, why are you running this play? Okay, I see what you're doing. It's just constantly over and over and over again with this team.
Yeah, it's absolutely unbelievable. Now, we're going to talk about some of the things the Eagles could have done differently in that first quarter in a second. But before we take our first break, and next up we're going to be talking to our friend Dr. Bruce Grossinger about some of the injuries that went down in this game. But, Seth, you're giving away tickets. We've given away jerseys this year. We got signed helmets. We got footballs, all that stuff. What are we giving away?
Well, you guys will see in the last segment, you know, we'll have some jerseys and some footballs out here. But we're giving away a helmet and a football today in the live chat, so you guys got to kind of hang around to be eligible for that. We're going to pull the winner out of the live chat. But we're also promoting 2 tickets to next week's game against the Panthers. There's the information there. You know, go over to all my social media handles. We'll have the instructions for what you need to do to be eligible to win. We got 2 tickets to next week's Panthers game. They're suite tickets, so make sure whoever wins them, you guys go in the suite and make sure you behave yourself, okay? So that we can do this again, okay? But we're going to be giving away a helmet and a signed helmet and a signed football every single week until the season is over. But we also got a Jalen Hurts jersey that we're going to give away. We'll promo that in next week's show. And then last but not least, certainly not least, I decided to leave this one for last. We got a Brandon Graham jersey that we're going to give away before the season's over. So lots of giveaways. Make sure that you guys go to the social media, follow me, like, all of that good stuff, you know, to be eligible to win some of these prizes.
Yeah, and don't ruin it for everyone else. We'd like to give tickets away again. And we say the Seth Joyner Show winners are there. We want that to, you know, appeal to the high.
They're going to know who you are, so don't go in there acting the fool.
You're going to stick out no matter what. All right, when we come back, we're going to tell you our drive of the game that changed everything for this Eagles team and made sure they locked up the victory. We'll also talk to our sports doc, Dr. Bruce Grossinger, when we return here in the betPARX postgame show presented by Ponley Hockey. And there it is in all its glory in Bensalem, just 20 minutes north of Center City, Philadelphia, Parx Casino.
It's happening again. Those missed tackles are starting to stack up. Your friends pleading with players who can't hear them. Sweating it out week after week. But not you. Why? Because whether they score or not, there's always another way to win on the betPARX app. New casino users score up to $1,000 bonus back in their first 24 hours.
It's the most wonderful time with the kids jingle. Be of good cheer. It's the most wonderful.
Whether your phone's broken or old, we've got you. With Verizon, anyone can trade in any phone, any condition. And get iPhone 16 Pro with Apple Intelligence on us. And iPad and Apple Watch Series 10, all three on us. That's up to $2,000 in value, only on Verizon.
Most people don't know how to get the care they need. The experts at Stay at Home Care can help. Before choosing a caregiver or family member for your care, you need to apply for the Home Care Program. The application process can be complicated. Stay at Home Care can help you navigate through every step. Once approved, your caregiver or family member will receive guaranteed weekly pay, a variety of medical benefits options, paid holidays, paid vacation, and overtime pay. Call Stay at Home Care, here to help every step of the way.
This upcoming segment is brought to you by Parx Casino. Welcome back to the betPARX post-game show presented by Pond Hockey, Marc Farzetta, Seth Joyner, and Derrick Gunn. Before we get into our drive of the game, gentlemen, I know both of you were very excited about this game. Gunner, you in particular, you were actually doing cartwheels back to our green room.
Yeah,
right before the game.
Absolutely.
You're so excited to see this game. Did it disappoint?
No. Well, it did because Baltimore didn't do half of what I thought they were going to do because the Eagles didn't let them do it. But in terms of what the Eagles did to get the job done, no, I'm not surprised because we've been talking about this all week. It's not always pretty. It's not always going to be the glamorous stats, but it's going to be effective stats. It's going to be effective plays. It's going to be plays of necessity, how and when they need them. And all of a sudden, that one back-breaking play is what seals the deal. It's been happening time and time again. Sure enough, happened in this game today.
Seth, did this game disappoint?
No, because I felt like it would be a defensive game to begin with anyway, just because of how these two teams are structured and what they like to do. They both run the football well. They dominate the line of scrimmage from an offensive standpoint. They both like to, play the run well defensively and dominate in that way. They like to try to figure out different ways to pressure the quarterback. So you had similar teams. So I really thought and believed that this would be a low-scoring game. I guess the Eagles are right there around what they average. They average about 26, points per game. The Ravens were 10 under what they normally average per game. But I just felt like whatever team, we talked about it in the pregame. I said whatever team dominates the line of scrimmage in both phases, offensively and defensively, is going to be the team that wins the game. And the Eagles came out on the positive end of that. And I said, hey, I'm here for a low-scoring game. 'Cause as a defensive football player, you like to see that. But the Eagles got the job done, when and where and how they needed to, and that's all that matters. Move on to Carolina.
I've seen it mentioned a couple of different times in the chat as well. We haven't mentioned the name yet, but I also just want to follow up with this. Justin Tucker got his last free crab cake from Jimmy's. Is he done? What's going on there? Is he just cooked?
Man.
35 years old, one of the greatest to ever do it. All of a sudden misses 2 field goals, misses the PAT as well. What's going on with Justin Tucker?
It's been an off season for him. Sometimes that happens. The best of them, no matter what position. Sometimes, the dog just bites you, and the dog's been biting him a lot this season. I mean, if you think about it, if he makes those 2 field goals and the extra point, what are we looking at here? Possibly
27-26.
Yeah. So what are we looking at here? So thank you, Justin, for having an off game. I appreciate it, man. We'll send you some tasty cakes or something.
Cheesesteaks. Maybe you need a break from them crab cakes. You need some cheesesteaks.
Spencer up 95 for a thank you. That's all. Let's talk about the drive of the game because it was something spectacular. The David Sonda drive of the game. The Eagles did not get a first down in the third quarter, albeit they only had 2 possessions. And then finally, with just 3 yards gained in the second half, they get the ball in the fourth quarter finally, and that's when they decide to cook. There was a crucial 3rd and 7 play on a crossing route to Dallas Goedert, and Jalen Hurts delivered a perfect strike to him, and he was able to come up with the first down on that 3rd and 7. Then the Eagles fed Saquon Barkley 4 times on that drive, and he was able to punch it in on the last one. I mean, punch it in. 25 yards out, he punched it in for the touchdown to give the Eagles that 21 points, 21-12 at that point, and help put the game out of reach. That was the drive of the game, brought to you by Davis Honda. How amazing was that?
I think at some point in time we need to create a hashtag that says it's Barkley time, because at that point in the game, the Eagles had come out the first 2 series. They went 3 plays and out, 3 plays and out. That next series, they come out with the 7 plays, 71 yards. And like I said, 4 of those 7 plays were run plays to Saquon Barkley. And, of course, the big one, the 25-yarder, that was the backbreaker, as far as I'm concerned. Now, all of a sudden, they went up by 9 points, and for all intents and purposes, with 7 minutes and, some change left, the game was over, D-Gun.
Yeah, he had 4 carries for 48 yards on that drive. 4 carries, and the icing on the cake, obviously, the 25-yarder. It seems like when everybody else is getting tired, he's fresh. You look at how many times he touches the ball. The man doesn't seem like he gets tired at all. And Kellen Moore has done a brilliant job of knowing how to use him. We keep talking about overusing him at this stage of a season. Now we're heading into December. Can he be overused? Well, he's got 5 games in December, 1 in January. I don't think so. At this point, I don't think so. Saquon has talked about he's in the best shape he's ever been in. He's rejuvenated to play football like he hasn't been before. He's surrounded by the most talent he's ever had in his entire career. And even though he's having a phenomenal season, an MVP candidate season, he doesn't have to always be the feature show like he was in New York. It could be Jalen, AJ, Devontae, Goddard, Calcaterra. It could be just about anybody. And that takes a lot of pressure off you, because he can just go and play his game. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have to worry about, if I don't do this, we might not be able to do this. No, because if he doesn't, as we saw most of the game, they bottled him up. Somebody else was doing it until they broke him free.
Well, just for context of what you were saying, Saquon ran the ball 10 times in the first half. Mm-hmm. 10 times. Mm-hmm. 10 times for 45 yards. That's 4.5 yards per carry. So he wound up with 26 carries. That's 16 carries he had in the second half for 62 yards, okay, and the 25-yard sprint. So really, they were kind of saving him, if you will, because you would think that Saquon probably should have had about 30 carries in this game, right. 30 to 32 carries in this game in order for the Eagles to win. But it didn't work out that way. So you wind up saving him in the first half, and you go into halftime and you're still up 14, I forget what they – was it 14-9?
Yeah.
14-9 at halftime.
Yeah.
That's the luxury you have to be up by 5 points, going into the half, is that, you can save him and not have to use him as much as you normally would use him. But I think it's very telling when you listen to guys talk in the broadcast. Tony Romo talked about their conversation with Saquon this week, and to your point, D. Gunn, you were talking about him saying that he was in the best shape that he's ever been in his life. And this is one of the things that I talked about early in the year when all this talk began about Saquon, the overusage and them using him too much. I'm like, listen, this guy realized that he's in a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He's been in football purgatory for the first 6 years of his career, and he knows he's coming here to play against one of the best offensive lines in the National Football League, something that he hadn't experienced in his entire career in New York, okay? He got his money. He's happy. He's playing behind a top 2, offensive line in the National Football League. He's got himself ready for the duration of what the Eagles need for him to do. You cannot tell me that Nick Sirianni and Kellen Moore and whoever else hadn't had this conversation that, hey, we're going to feature you. So make sure that you come in the best shape that you can be in so that we can use you. Because normally, if you go back over the last 2 regimes, running backs have rarely carried the football more than 16 to 18 times, because I believe, I've said it time and time again, that they have this data, this analytical data that says once you exceed 16 to 18 carries for a running back, the potential for injuries go up exponentially. throw all that out the window when it comes to Saquon Barkley. I'm not worried about him having anywhere from 20 to 30 touches in the game combined at all because he's built for this.
Absolutely. Barkley time. We're going to get that one going. We'll print up some T-shirts, too. Hey, let's bring in our sports doc because there were some things that went down in this one. Also an injury we have to follow up with when it comes down to Devontae Smith. But first and foremost, Dr. Bruce Grossinger, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Before the game, we understand that Devontae Smith was going to give the hamstring a go. He didn't lead us to believe anything when he was having his locker room session earlier in the week. Wouldn't tell the media anything. What do you know about Devontae Smith and where he's at with that hamstring, and could he play next week against the Panthers?
A good sign was that he was warming up with the team, obviously not in pads, but he was running, he was cutting, and I think it was clear, and Ian Rappaport reported yesterday that he would not play in today's game. And as we know with hamstring injuries, that you have to be safe. And so he looked great out there in warm-ups, but it was clear they were gonna hold him out of the game. And next week they play the Panthers at home, so I don't think you really need him next week. I think you might hold him back. You might hold him until you play the Steelers, who I've circled as really the next best team that's up. But the fact he was out there warming up, catching balls, he looked good, and I think this was an elective thing where they kept him out.
You know, I was just going to ask you about that, Doc, because, you know, to your point, you're playing the Carolina Panthers next week. With the offense rather doing what it's doing, is it necessary to bring him back? And how much does the extra week of rest, you know, allow him to come back against the Pittsburgh Steelers and be 100%?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say it helps him out a lot. He's going to be stretching, and they're going to be giving a lot of physical therapy to the hamstring. And even though today obviously was a huge game, they're very cautious, and smartly so, because they were able to win the game, and he's a big part of it. And you want to have him healthy for the playoffs.
What about Reed Blankenship, Doc? I want to ask you about him. Had the concussion, and it seemed like it was a rather quick process here. Usually we're used to protocol being dragged out a little bit. This seemed like it was almost immediate.
Well, and to add on to that, you had Kyle Hamilton that went in to the concussion protocol, and he came back in the game. Just for our viewers, Doc, can you talk us through what the process is? Because 9 times out of 10, if a guy goes into the locker room for the concussion protocol, his day is usually done. So I was shocked to see Kyle Hamilton come back. They made a pretty quick decision on Reed Blankenship. You know, so the severity of, you know, one versus the other and what the actual process is that you go through that helps them make the decision whether a guy is able to come back or whether he's immediately ruled out.
So basically with Kyle Hamilton, apparently he was able to go back in the locker room. There's a whole battery of tests on the field. So no-go signs are if he's amnesic. You ask what's called, there's a SCAT-3 protocol, Maddox sides. So you ask him about orientation, you ask him about plays in the game and where he is, and if he doesn't answer those questions properly, that's no-go. So we could presume that there's an eye movement test called nystagmus. We could presume that Reed Blankenship didn't pass the sideline tests. He must have been disoriented, didn't remember plays in the game, or he had some abnormal eye movements, and therefore he was ruled out. Whereas Kyle Hamilton, you know, excellent safety, apparently was able to fly through all of those and to pass not one but 2 neurological exams, focused exams, having to do with his speech, his memory, and his balance. And he was able to come back and play the game successfully. So I think with also the fact that Blankenship had an earlier concussion in the season, there's something called second impact syndrome, where you have to be extra cautious because there are certain neurochemical changes that could occur. So I think they were very safe, and I think using an abundance of caution, they did not bring Reed Blankenship back in the game.
Hey, Doc, going back to Devontae Smith for just a moment, because when you talk about these type of hamstring injuries that could be reoccurring at time, and of course you want to guard against re-aggravating it to the point where he could be out 2 to 3 weeks, how much do you have to guard against cold weather also playing into this? Because as we know, muscles contract a little bit more when it comes to the colder weather.
It's very true. And it was a cold game today. You saw that there was snow. There were snow flurries during the game. And we know that muscle elasticity is affected by thermal factors. And you pointed that out. So the fact it's a cold game, a windy game on a hard field, I think that does, play into it. And I think in retrospect, they were smart to not play him.
The concern I have right now at this point is Dallas Goedert. He's been beat up throughout the year. He had a hamstring that kept him out of some games. Now he's got a knee injury. Any word on, the extent of that, what exactly it is? But I remember him being ruled out right somewhere in the third quarter.
Yeah, I don't have any updates on Dallas Goedert. I've seen a bunch of discussion about Blankenship. We can hope that it was only a strain, and because he's been subject to these type of soft tissue injuries, he may not even need an MRI tomorrow. I'm sure he's going to go through a full physical exam and x-rays in the locker room, but he's an important guy, and he did make a couple important plays in the second half, but you're right, he did go out. So I think that bears watching. But as far as any preliminary reports from any reporters in the locker room, I haven't heard anything. In certain ways, no news is good news.
Absolutely. Dr. Bruce Grossinger, thank you so much. And, hopefully, I can get cocky because I'm not playing in the game, but hopefully the Eagles get a nice long fourth quarter break against the Carolina Panthers and everybody can rest up for that Steelers game. How's that sound?
I hope so. I'd all be in attendance, and hopefully we'll have an easy one next week. And wish you all a great Thanksgiving weekend, and thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Dr. Bruce Grossinger, our sports doc, joining us right there. Appreciate you. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the guys that stepped up in place of Brandon Graham and the job they did tonight. That's when we return to the betPARX post-game show. Also, Bailey Livesey is going to be joining us and letting us know what you guys have to say in our comments across the board about this Eagles win over the Ravens. Back in a few on the betPARX post-game show presented by Ponley Hockey. There's the beer garden here at Parx Casino. Enjoy a Stein and take in a game.
At Ponley Hockey Giordano, we understand the impact an injury can have on your life. Our experienced attorneys have recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we know we can do the same for you. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured at work, give Ponley Hockey a call.
Since 1893, Weber Display and Packaging has been Pennsylvania's leading manufacturer of corrugated packaging and displays. We're family-owned with 4 Philadelphia locations, 2 converting facilities, a warehouse, and a fulfillment center. Designed through delivery, we exceed customer needs. Weber Display and Packaging. Our core values drive everything we do. Come join our team.
This is Parx.
This is how you roll. This is how it goes. This is how you pop. This is how you rock. Take a chance, do a dance, little romance. This is how you. This is how you win. This is how you excite. This is how you all night. 360 hit me. Now we're going all in. I can feel it calling. The crowd, the light, the night, the sights, the vibe is right. This is how you. This is
Parx, Pennsylvania's #1 casino experience. This is how you win.
At Revolution X, we know that fortunes are made in times of uncertainty. Are you selling your investment real estate? Are you interested in deferring your tax with a 1031 exchange? At RevX, we're experts in 1031 exchange planning and the use of passive real estate options using DSTs. Not in the midst of an exchange and want to invest in real estate but don't know where to start? Revolution X has institutional grade real estate options for any size investor right now. Set up a consultation at RevXWealth.com. RevX, defer the tax, maximize the gain.
This upcoming segment is brought to you by Ponley Hockey. Welcome back to the betPARX post-game show presented by Ponley Hockey from Parx Casino, just 20 minutes north of Center City, Philadelphia. Before we get to our social media coordinator, Bailey Livesey, gentlemen, I have to ask you this question. It wasn't just the leadership that Brandon Graham was leaving behind here with the Philadelphia Eagles. Actually, you know what? He helped break down the Eagles before kickoff tonight, and the defense went out and they had themselves a game. So he kept his word that you haven't heard the last of me. That's what Brandon Graham said. But then as far as the production goes, this Philadelphia Eagles team needed some players to step up. We talked about Nolan Smith. We talked about Jalix Hunt. We talked about Josh Sweat. the entire defensive line, led by Jalen Carter, really above anybody else, did their job tonight. How'd you feel about the players that we highlighted before the game, Nolan Smith, Jalix Hunt, and what they were able to do to fill in when it came to the production of Brandon Graham?
Listen, I think that they made the best of their opportunities. You know, Jalix Hunt, I mean, you throw him into this mix, this game, you know. But like I said, you know, one man's demise is another man's opportunity. Nolan Smith had the early sack. I mean, I don't think people really understand how difficult it is to sack Lamar Jackson. And he came in and got one. Josh Sweat got one. You know, I just think that Jalen Carter, you guys know how I feel about him. I think he's an absolute monster and a beast. And I'm going to say this. I tweeted it out. Nick Sirianni needs to submit some of these non-holding calls that the referees are missing on Jalen Carter in the backfield. You can see the little white T-shirt being pulled. You see it. I mean, the hands across the chest. You know, every other player at that position is getting these calls, and Jalen Carter is being held on almost 50% of the times where he's rushing the passer or he makes a move in the run game, and the referees are acting like they don't see it. Like on that screenplay that they threw to Hill today, the guy was holding him. He did a good job of reading what was going on and went to the play. And as he's going to the play, I almost said something I ain't had no business saying. Listen. A blind man could have saw that holding call. You understand what I'm saying? And so how do you miss that? It just seemed like this is the second game in a row where I felt like the refereeing was slanted towards the opponent so much more than the Eagles. The Eagles has, to Mark's point, the Eagles had 6 penalties in the first quarter alone. That's right. And the Baltimore Ravens didn't have any. And some of those were so ticky-tack, you could have let some of those go. The holding call down the field, the pass interference, all of these calls, they're questionable calls. And we're getting the same thing on the other side of the ball, and the referees aren't calling them. So I think Nick Sirianni needs to submit some of these things, you know, as a point of emphasis. You know, the referees like to do every year. We're going to focus on this thing being a point of emphasis. How about you take a look, you know, either the head referee or the back judge, whoever it is, take a look at what's going on with 98, because especially when he's one-on-one, he can't be blocked, and you can't tell me that you don't see it, because that little area, that guard box, that's the area that you're responsible for watching and then following the football, and he's right there in the mix, and they're missing it so many times. They need to fix that.
You talk about players who stood out today. You look at Jalen Carter's numbers. He had 4 tackles, 3 solos. His 3 solo tackles were all for a loss. Okay? And he still held most of the game. And because he does so much dirty work, a guy who we've been waiting to emerge, Nolan Smith gets 8 tackles in a game like this. Zach Vaughn does what he does. He had 13 tackles, 8 solo tackles today, and a tackle for a loss. Nolan Smith also had a sack and a tackle for a loss. Nakobe Dean, another 10 tackles in this game today. I mean, it's not one man.
Let me say this. I apologize for breaking your thought, but when your linebackers week after week after week are your leading 2 tacklers on your defense, you got a good damn defense. You know what? Because that's the way it should be.
Yeah, but that's a lot of times, too, we talk about how if your linebackers are your leading tacklers, that means the guys in the trenches aren't doing their job. But in this case, these linebackers are so active. Nakobe Dean and Zach, they're spending more time in the backfield and forcing plays wider than teams want them to go, and that's a good thing. That's exactly what you want from your linebacking play. You don't want them waiting for the play to come to them and give it up 5, 6, 7 yards. You want them to blow up plays, extend plays, and that's exactly what this linebacking core has been doing.
Yeah, been pretty amazing all season long. This is what we've been saying about the game. We want to know what you guys have been saying about the game. So to put it all together, our social media coordinator, Bailey Livesey, has been monitoring the comments and monitoring social media as well. Bailey, what do the good people have for us? And, hey, welcome in. How you doing?
Well, thank you, Mark. I'm doing great, and a big thanks to everyone for tuning in and submitting all of their questions. The live chat definitely has some strong opinions on the referee's performance tonight. So for our first question, what are your thoughts on the refs?
We kind of got into it right there.
There you go. Now you know it's not staged, because I went into my diatribe way before she even said anything about it.
Well, there was one that we missed. The Dallas Goedert play in the corner of the end zone where his jersey was tugged, blatantly tugged, and there was no call made on that. And to your point, Seth, this is something that Nick Sirianni has been asked about, and he was asked about it earlier in the season. And Doug Peterson would get into this. I know Andy Reid would get into this. Even Chip Kelly got into this. They want to know the explanation. Hey, can you help us understand? That's the phraseology. Can you help us understand as to why this wasn't called? And really, the translation of that is, what the hell were you thinking? Why wasn't this called? So when you look at Dallas Goedert again, his jersey tugged in the end zone and there's no call, that's something that I think Nick Sirianni is going to say at least, hey, what's going on here? Now, unfortunately, he has not been open to even letting people know what he's submitting to the league. I would hope, Seth, to your point, and Gunnar, your point as well, this would be the exception because there was a lot of stuff in this game that went uncalled, and there was also a lot of stuff in this game that hindered an already phenomenal performance by Jalen Carter.
I'll tell you this. I give Nick credit for not making it public because when you make it public, then all of a sudden you've made it public that you're questioning the referees. But as a coach, you're coaching your team, D-Gun. You got to play through it. You know, sometimes you got to beat two teams. You got to beat the opposing team and you got to beat the Zebras. So sometimes by not talking about it outwardly, now you're not sending the message to your players to the point where your players are complaining about it. They're just playing and they're not complaining about it. And in reality, that's the way it needs to be. But it should be a fair and balanced field when it comes to what the referees see and what they're calling.
A lot of times, a guy in Nick Sirianni's position, especially when we can see how blatant it is, you know, when they look at the film, they see it as well. You have to be careful how you say and what you say publicly because all of a sudden you're getting a fine from the league office for saying the wrong thing. You know, to directly answer Bailey's question in 2 words about what I felt about the refs today, they sucked. Plain and simple. They sucked.
The highbrow analysis. The highbrow analysis we provide. Bailey, that was a good first one. What do you have next?
Well, the defense did their thing. Again, who was the most underrated player on the defense, in your opinion?
Ooh, underrated.
Ooh, that's a good one. Wow.
I'm still going with Jalen Carter, man, because you know what? It's a shame that this kid isn't getting the sack stats that he needs because I think he needs about 7 or 8 sacks for him to really get the type of attention that he needs. But if he's not playing Pro Bowl football, I don't know who isn't. Because it may not show up in the stat line, D-Gun.
Yeah.
You know, you talked about 4 tackles and 3 for loss.
Right.
That's all fine and dandy. But I know because I've been in those rooms before when they hand out the paperwork and you're filling out and you're looking at the stats to see the players and see, you know, what they've done.
Right.
Like what he's doing is not going to show up in those stats when it comes time to vote for the Pro Bowl. But what he's doing is he's making life easy for the linebackers to get downhill and play the run. He's making life easy for the guys rushing off the edge because he's getting so much push up the middle that the quarterback has to step up. Like Nolan Smith's first sack was him coming underneath. Now, originally you're thinking to yourself, no, don't. Oh, great sack, you know.
Right.
But the fact that Jalen is pushing the pocket so much, he is causing so much carnage everywhere else that everybody else is eating because of what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go with Nolan Smith because we heard his name called a couple of times, and you look, I'm like, he had 8 tackles. He was in on 8 tackles, and he had a tackle for a loss, and he had and he had a sack as well. Nolan Smith had a good game against a very formidable offense in this game today, and a lot of times, I think we talk sporadically about Nolan, but I don't think we talk enough about how much he's improved each and every week. You know, we joked in the early part of the season, he's in a witness protection program. He's a no-show. All of a sudden, the last 3 or 4 games, he has been very consistent for this team, and he's going to have to be even more consistent now that their best edge guy, Brandon Graham, is done for the season.
Yeah, he was one of the guys that we challenged before the game, just saying, hey, who's going to step up and fill that void? He would certainly want to do it. Not that he's underrated because the guy certainly had a highlight tackle in today's game with about 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Cooper DeJean stepping up and just absolutely plugging, pile driving Derrick Henry into the turf, into the grass there at M&T Bank Stadium in the Inner Harbor. That was a thing of beauty, and as the kids say, hang it in the Louvre. Flipped him over. Love to see it. I'll just highlight him.
That's like somebody trying to take a spoonful of Marc's Fruit Loops, man. I've seen Marc body slam people trying to take some Fruit Loops.
I do love my cereal. I do love my cereal. Bailey, what's the last one?
Okay, and lastly, I mean, what a great post-Thanksgiving game. How did you feel about this Battle of the Birds prior to kickoff?
I mean, this was the biggest game of the season. I mean, we were talking about NFL pundits on the national stage before the show, talking about how this was the biggest game, not for the Eagles, not for the Ravens, but just for the entire NFL slate to this point, the biggest game of the season. And the Eagles answered the bell. Saquon Barkley answered the bell. Vic Fangio in this defense. Jalen Hurts, Dallas Goedert, obviously A.J. Brown with what he was able to contribute in the second quarter of this game. This was the biggest game of the season, and the Eagles are the ones that walk off the field victorious. So I think we're all feeling pretty good.
Well, Degon, first of all, let's just say, okay, it was not Battle of the Birds. The Eagles are America's bird, okay? That Raven is a scavenger. So I don't know how much of a Battle of the Birds it was, but, listen, it was a great football game. And it was a great test for the Eagles, and I'm happy to see them be able to go down there and step up to the big moment, which is going to give them confidence moving forward the rest of the season and into the playoffs.
A lot of concern because this was the most explosive offense statistically that they had faced all season up to this point. Eagles had never won in Baltimore. That was another concern as well. Ravens had their home crowd. Of course, a lot of Eagle fans traveled down there. So a lot of concerns about how the ebbs and flow of this game would go. But once we saw how the Eagles defense corralled all of that offense, and once they got on top, there was no looking back. It was academic after that. Once Saquon punched him in the mouth, what are you laughing at, man? What the heck you laughing at?
It was academic?
It was academic.
It was academic.
It was all
Thank
academic.
you, Professor.
It was all academic at that point on.
This was a team. Also, let it be referred to as a Battle of the Birds, nevermore, with the Ravens being scavengers.
What?
Bailey, what? Academic.
I like that. Nevermore. Is that from The Raven? Edgar Allan Poe?
My goodness.
Bailey,
can we just cut and go to break right now?
Bailey Livesey, our social media coordinator, thank you so much. We appreciate you chiming in and letting us know what the good people
Bailey's
say.
like, I ain't signed up.
Bailey's like, I can't get out of here fast enough.
I ain't signed up for all this.
Oh, anytime. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Oh, man.
We'll be back in a second with the betPARX post-game show presented by Pond Lee Hockey right here from Parx Casino in Ben Salem, just 20 minutes north of Center City, Philadelphia. The 360 Lounge here at Parx Casino. Enjoy some fantastic entertainment and ice-cold drinks.
It's the most wonderful time with the kids jingle. Be of good cheer. It's the most wonderful.
Whether your phone's broken or old, we've got you. With Verizon, anyone can trade in any phone, any condition. And get iPhone 16 Pro with Apple Intelligence on us. And iPad and Apple Watch Series 10, all three on us. That's up to $2,000 in value, only on Verizon.
Hello? And the next thing I knew, I woke up in a hospital bed.
Has a friend ever told you a story about an accident and someone says,
you should probably sue them.
Forget your friend. Call Pond Lee Hockey Giordano.
We're an injury law firm that's recovered billions of dollars for our clients.
And with our vast network of attorneys throughout the country, we know we can do the same for you.
So if you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lee Hockey a call.
One conversation is all it takes, and you won't pay a dime until we win.
Sell your car to us, no hassle, no fuss. DavisBuysCars.com.
Did you know that Davis Honda will pay top dollar for your car? Go to DavisBuysCars.com and get an instant quote on your vehicle. We'll make the purchase as easy as possible and put cash in your hand faster than you can say DavisBuysCars.com.
Sell your car to us, no hassle, no fuss. DavisBuysCars.com.
Gentlemen, are you ready for a wardrobe update? Introducing Divine Nine's Custom Menswear, your clothier for truly unique, custom-made threads. With Divine Nine, you can design your own one-of-a-kind suit, jacket, slacks, shirts, golf pants, and shorts, perfectly handcrafted by our skilled artisans who will bring your vision to life. Prepare to stand out from the crowd with Divine Nine's Custom Clothier, official clothier of Seth Joyner. Custom clothing made for you.
This upcoming segment is brought to you by Verizon. Welcome back to the betPARX post-game show presented by Ponley Hockey. I think we got the show back on the rails a little bit here. And you know what? Let's make sure we're back on the rails by giving away some fine items here. Seth, I know we can have people follow the show at Seth Joyner Show on all social media platforms. Make sure they're following on YouTube as well. Like, subscribe, and ding, hit that notification button as well so you know when we get this post and pregame started as well. But Seth, we got some great giveaways here. We got footballs, we got helmets, jerseys, tickets. What do we got?
A little bit of everything. Got the helmet. Got an autographed helmet and football that we're giving away in show today. The jerseys will be given away in subsequent weeks. The Jalen Hurts jersey will go out first, and then the Brandon Graham jersey will go out, after that. But we've got this week 2 tickets to the Panthers game coming up in a suite, and you guys just got to go to my social media platforms to figure out how to enter to be eligible for it. We'll pick the winners either on Wednesday or Thursday. We'll announce the winners on all social media platforms, and then we'll get in contact with you on how to get those tickets as we move forward.
All right. One of the things that I'm really finding fascinating about this season is if you compare this year's roster to last year's roster, yeah, there might have been guys that were on the team, Nakobe Dean being one of them, but a lot of the newcomers and a lot of the new faces as far as guys finding themselves in a starter's role on this team, those are the guys that seem to really be taking over. I mean, Jalen Carter came out of the gate strong last year, as we all know, tailed off at the end of the season, has shown no signs of slowing down to this point. In fact, only getting better and better. We can't tell the Zach Bond story enough times of a guy that was a special teamer, a guy that was presented to Vic Fangio by Howie Roseman as a special teamer, and Vic Fangio said, nope, he's going to be my inside linebacker. And then all of a sudden, he starts to put together a Pro Bowl caliber season. Nakobe Dean filling in his role rather nicely. And then you also see Saquon Barkley coming in here, being signed by the Philadelphia Eagles. And we talked about this a lot last week, but being the most impactful offensive weapon added to this team since Terrell Owens back in 2004 into 2005. This is something that we're just not used to seeing from the Philadelphia Eagles, especially at the running back position. We have seen good running backs in Philadelphia. Miles Sanders had a great year the year the Eagles went to the Super Bowl. DeAndre Swift had another 1,000-yard season for this Philadelphia Eagles team. And now Saquon is just a next step up, an absolute game changer. And in case you didn't hear it, it was coined on this show, Barkley time. Barkley time by Seth Joyner.
Hashtag it.
Yeah, hashtag it right now. And what is so amazing is, just off the top of my head, you're talking about going into that Commanders game. Close game. Eagles needed to run away with it. All of a sudden, in 20 seconds, you had 62 yards and 2 touchdowns by Saquon Barkley. Going to that Rams game last week, come out of halftime, needed to put some distance between yourself and the Rams. Bang, 70-yard touchdown run. Then later in that game to help ice it in the fourth quarter, 72 yards. And then how about this? We've highlighted it many times. It made him the player to bank on by our friends at Mid-Penn Bank. When you talk about Saquon Barkley, all of a sudden he has 4 carries on that drive that helped ice the game on a 25-yard touchdown run from Saquon. This guy is the ultimate game changer, and he's one of the many newer Eagles, or at least newer leadership Eagles, to help take this team to the next level.
Well, I'm not sure whether you were asking a question or making a statement, but I feel like the difference between this football team from last year to this year, squarely coaching. Squarely coaching. Because players get better because coaches give them the tools to get better. When you look at the previous couple of years, they had talent, but they had young players that weren't advancing. A lot of the important players that they had to, that they needed for this football team, they had to go and acquire those players via free agency. But now you're looking at players like Nakobe Dean, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Nolan Smith, the 2 young cornerbacks, okay? These are players that the Eagles actually went and drafted. And these are players that are stepping up to the mic, and the difference is coaching. I'm telling you, it's coaching, because you didn't see these players advance at this level over the last 3 years that you're seeing these guys do in 1 year. You have Saquon Barkley giving his running back coach all the credit and all the love for the shift and the change and the mentality of how he's attacking and playing the game of football. See, when you get the right coaches in place, okay, now your players can not only confidently get better, but they can physically, technically, and fundamentally get better because you're giving them the tools to do so. But anybody, like I can teach anybody the X's and O's of football. That's easy. Give me a whiteboard, give me a marker, give me an eraser, and I can just drill you through it until you can talk the lingo and you understand it. But understanding that those X's and O's, they're stationary on the board. Those X's and O's aren't breathing and thinking and moving and being aggressive. Okay, that guy's not going to line up where you think he's going to line up all the time, and he may not do exactly what you expect for him to do every time. But if I coach you properly and you read your keys and you know exactly where you're supposed to do, what you're supposed to do, and where you're supposed to go, now, after time, over time, I should say, it becomes second nature to you. You know, like just to take you through the thought process, you know, of what a linebacker endures, the player's call, okay? Now I got to look and see what the down and distance is. I got to realize where we are on the field. Now that I got that information, I put it into my data bank. Now I'm trying to see when they break the huddle, oh, what formation are they in? Okay, the minute that I see what formation they're in, now I'm locking into my brain, okay, I got this on run, I got this on pass. Once I think through that, now where's my keys? Am I reading the tight end? Am I reading the back? Am I reading the offensive lineman? And now once I read, now I'm reacting because automatically I know what my responsibility is. Oh, it's run, this is my gap. Run to me, this is my gap. Run away from me, that's my gap. It's pass, we're in zone, I'm a hook the curl player, boom. The minute I decipher what they're in, what they're doing, the minute I read that it's pass, boom, I'm dropping, okay? And I'm getting my depth, and I'm looking to see where the receivers and where the tight ends are, and I'm trying to read the routes. The coaches are putting these players in position because they put the tools in their toolbox to get better, and they're only going to get better as time goes on because they're young players and they haven't seen everything. everything. Once they get a chance to see everything that they need to see through repetition, then it's like, oh my God, look at the football team that we have now.
I mean, you could certainly, Derrick Gunn, you talk about the acquisitions, talk about new guys, people going into the new roles as well. Coaching fits right into all of it.
You know, it's been night and day difference. Compared to the coordinators and the coaching staff that we had just a season ago. And we wondered how long it would take to gel. And obviously there were a lot of rough patches early on in the season. You know, when you're talking about coordinators trying to organize 11 guys on defense, 11 guys on offense, something's going to be out of whack. It's not going to be as smooth as you want it to be. And then all of a sudden we could see it turning the corner and what was becoming. We're like, wait a minute, this defense looks pretty nice right now. There's nobody, if you're sitting here telling me that we knew that this defense was going to be the number one defense in the National Football League, lying. Anybody's lying telling me, after what we saw the first 4 or 5 games, you flat out lying if you're telling me you thought this would happen. But it did. What it did. Vic Fangio saw something in each and every guy and formed this unison with his collective group. And even the guys who come in as backups, you know, there's a reason why they come in at certain positions, and, you know, not all over the place. There's only one guy on the defense, I hate to say this, that I think has seen his better days, and I love him to death, but Avonte Maddox, you know, every time we look up when there's a minor flaw, somehow, some way, he's always near that minor flaw. There was a time when he was one of the best nickelbacks in the game. The operative word is was. And I understand you have to play him, you know, spell some of these other guys at time. If they get nicked up, they get winded. I get that. He's a safety valve. But Avonte Maddox always seems to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
It obviously has not been a very good, really last 2 years, because even last year getting banged up as well.
Yeah.
And then this year, Cooper DeJean, and the thrill of watching Cooper DeJean go out there and take over the role that was formerly occupied by Avonte Maddox has certainly been a big difference maker. Now,
it's pressure, though.
It's
pressure because, you know, pressure makes, you know, either a pipe burst or it makes cream rise to the top. Pressure makes diamonds. You know, the heat and pressure is what makes the diamonds. So it's the pressure that's on him now. First of all, he's lost his starting job to begin with. And then all of a sudden, you know, now whenever he's put on the field, there's this sense of, oh, I got to make something happen. Oh, I got to do something. So now he's pushing. And he's trying to do more than needs to be done instead of just relaxing and playing. You can see, you know, the angst on his body. The minute that the ball is snapped, he's just like hyper. And I'm like, dude, calm down. Just allow your natural talents to do what it's been able to do all these years that made you an NFL player. But he's so out of his comfort zone right now because he realizes that he's not playing well. He's already lost his starting job, and every time that he's on the field, he's trying to make something happen to gain favor or to do something that the coaches recognize. And when you press like that, you wind up making more mistakes than you do good plays.
Now, we just sung the praises of the Philadelphia Eagles coaching. And Seth, you did a great job bringing that down for us. I just have one question. What the heck is going on in the first quarter? Because this continues. Look, the Eagles have won 8 games in a row. We're all extremely happy, but I think we have to acknowledge for a second how odd this really is. How is it that on such a consistent basis, yes, even during an 8-game winning streak, do the Eagles continue to have problems in the first quarter with either execution, sustaining long drives, getting points? What is it that the Eagles coaches are doing all week long when you think they have their fingerprints on the game plan the most, the first 15 scripted plays, if you will? What are they doing all week, and why does it seem like they're always ill-prepared to start games?
It's so hard to answer that question, guys, because most coaching staffs, what they do is they look at the film, they look at their packages, and they deem certain plays that they could run based upon the tendencies of their opponent and what they believe and what they think that team may be in once they show them that look, because over a 4-game schedule, that's what they've shown that they like to do, okay? That's the first game plan. Then there's the adjusted game plan, okay? This is what we can do in anticipation of how they're going to adjust to what we think they're going to do. And then there's the first 15. The first 15 is supposed to be plays that, you are 85% sure that these plays are going to work. That means that if you got 10 plays that you're sure that 8 of those 10 plays are going to be successful, okay? I'm not so sure that the Eagles really have a first 15 or a first 10. I really don't. I get the sense that they come out and they run what they run to get a sense of how the defense is going to react to them, and then they adjust off of that. That's the only logical reason I can come up with why they're sputtering, because once they make the adjustment, it's game over. The adjustments that they make, they have success with it. But my thing is, why – I don't understand why they can't be efficient, D-Gun, in the first quarter. And I don't know, like I said, because it could be one of 3 things. It could be the first 15 aren't really good plays. It could be what your game plan is early. Is it necessarily – how the team is reacting? And then it could be, hey, we got to go to our third option, which is our adjusted game plan in order for us to figure it out. Or maybe they just get over there in the sand and they take a stick and they say, okay, this is what we're going to do. Or they get on the whiteboard and they make the adjustment on the whiteboard, and the whiteboard is how they make their adjustment. But they got to figure it out, because somewhere down the line, be it over the last, what is it? How many games left?
They're
5 games left?
They got 5 games left.
Over the last 5 games, and once they get into the playoffs, they're going to encounter a team somewhere along the way. Probably when they get to the Detroit Lions, they're going to score on the first possession. They're going to be consistently, moving the ball up and down the field, and they're going to have to keep pace. They're not going to be able to burn the first quarter and be down by, 6 to 9, 7 to 9 points and be able to come back. They're going to have to figure this out.
I think it comes down to this team spends a lot of time during the week looking at certain aspects and certain tendencies on the film, and I think opposition, because this offense is so lethal, comes out and gives them looks they haven't prepared for, and it takes them a while to figure it out. Sometimes takes a whole quarter. I mean, what was it, a couple of games ago they finally scored points in the first quarter. Now they resort back to what happened today. I think, especially with the better defenses, and I would expect you're going to see it in a couple of weeks with this Pittsburgh defense. As good as Pittsburgh's defense is, they're going to try to give the Eagles a look they haven't seen defensively before, and it's going to take the Eagles a little while to figure it out. But, boy, once they figure it out, there's no stopping them after that, no matter what the opposition tries to do.
This might sound like high school. This might sound like Pauly Pom-Poms, but –
Like what?
Pauly Pom-Poms?
Pauly Pom-Poms.
Wow.
Is that a cartoon?
When this team –
I'm glad I know how to hold my tongue.
I just wait for them to break out.
Oh, my gosh. I almost said something that could have got us all in trouble.
Great adjustment. All of a sudden, you just know that you have this feeling, this confidence. Again, 7 wins in a row going into this game, 8 wins in a row now after this. Again, another struggle-full performance in the first quarter. They figure it out. And it's almost like you just wait. Like you have this sense of security that once they get Saquon going, once they put the quarter in that machine, he ain't going to stop. And that's exactly what happened, especially late in this game again. And also, they used A.J. Brown pretty well, too, in that second quarter.
The luxury of it is, until they figure it out, they have a defensive unit that keeps them in games. You know, they keep them right there within striking distance. Sometimes, especially when you're on a road against a good opponent, the opponent jumps on you early, and there's no recovering from it. You know, with this Eagles defense, getting the necessary stops to give the offense the ball back enough times to try to figure it out, okay, what are they going to do next? What are they going to do next? And then all of a sudden they have a blueprint in terms of what they're trying to do. Can't say that about a lot of teams in NFL because a lot of teams don't have the type of defense this Eagles team has right now.
I would ask you guys this question. What kind of adjustments do you guys potentially think that the Eagles offense is holding back for a period in the season down the stretch or in the playoffs that they haven't revealed? Because as I look at this offense, it's not overly complex what they do. You know, they go 2-by-2, they go 3-by-1, and they go 2 tight ends to one side and 2 wideouts to the other side, and then they balance up in 12 personnel, just 2 tight ends and 1 back where they got, you know, a tight end and a wide receiver on this side, and a tight end and a wide receiver on that side. So they don't really do a whole lot of different things that, you know, that as you're studying them, you know, from a game plan perspective, you ask yourself, or you say to yourself, man, I'm charting them, man. They got like 30 different formations and, you know, all these different, you know, motions and shifts and all these different things to try to confuse you. They don't do that. So I'm always wondering, what else does Kellen Moore have, you know, in his back pocket that he hasn't shown that the Eagles have at their disposal, and Vic Fangio for that matter, because the guy's been around for a long time. I'm pretty sure his defense is as they got their base of what they like to do, but they got some things that are anomalies that, you know, things that they morph to and they move to. Like they'll line up in their pure 4-2, and they'll walk Zach Bond down on the end as an edge rusher, and they'll play their 5-man front out of that.
Yeah.
We've seen Baltimore have to make some adjustments to that, you know, in the second half. And then they'll turn around and they'll drop another safety in the box, pretty much giving you a 7-man look. So there's a lot of things that Vic Fangio as well probably has tucked away, you know, tight to his vest that he hasn't shown as well.
Valid point. You know, coaches always talk about how you never see their entire playbook in a year. And even when they come back that next year, especially with the returning players, a young quarterback, there's always something they keep adding. I mean, some of these coaches' playbooks look like the old Yellow Pages, man. And I'm like, you know, and obviously coaches steal from each other.
Yellow Pages, what's that?
You know what that is. Don't you sit there and tell me you don't know what the Yellow Pages is. A lot of people out there, Yellow Pages? They don't know.
I appreciate you saying the old Yellow Pages, yeah.
So you know, I made sure I said that because people are like, what the heck's he talking about here? But, you know, it's always – a coach always has a certain bag of tricks that they hold back that they don't want people to see because everybody studies everybody nowadays. With the advent of all the stuff technology we have right now, you have access to just about anything, you know, in terms of film and all this stuff. And there are a few teams out there that got caught cheating trying to do that stuff as well. But, you know, you hold back something, and even during the season, they might practice something secretly, one play secretly, that nobody gets to see. That's why they kick the media out of practice after the first 10, 15 minutes of practice to unveil at a certain point again. We're going to see stuff in late December and January into the playoffs that we haven't seen all year on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I thought I had seen most of this stuff from Kellen Moore, at least offensively speaking. And then, again, I go back to the first quarter, and I see Will Shipley getting a carry in the early goings of this game. I see Britton Covey getting a swing pass. Those aren't abnormal plays. Just thought the personnel was a little strange in the early goings. Now, before we go to this break, we have to talk right now about some giveaways that we want to make sure we handle right now. And Seth, what are we giving away here?
We're giving away an autograph football and an autographed mini helmet. This winner is coming out of our live chat of the show right now. So Mark G, 8309, you are the winner of the mini helmet and football. The gentleman from last week, I believe his name was, help me.
Oh, I know, it's 59.
Tom Jackson, 59-52. You are the winner from last week, but we haven't heard from you. Now, when you're winning, you need to contact me DM me over in either my Twitter account or over in my Instagram account so that we can get these items to you. So, Tom, if I don't hear from you this week, we're going to have to give your gift to somebody else. But those are our winners for this week, and we'll have another football and another mini helmet that'll go out to a lucky winner next week during postgame.
There we go. When we come back, we'll give you our final thoughts on this Eagles' 8th straight win and the victory 24-19 over the Baltimore Ravens down there in Baltimore. That's when we return here on the betPARX postgame show presented by Ponley Hockey. The betPARX Sportsbook. Enjoy all the games from a luxurious leather seat. Enjoy some drinks and have yourself a good time.
Pride, passion, and persistence. These are the values that drive us all at Ron Jaworski Golf. We strive to deliver outstanding conditions as well as playability for golfers of all ages and abilities. Our championship golf courses offer a variety of challenges from a link-style walk along the river to an escape into the pines and everything in between. My team at Ron Jaworski Golf is committed to delivering memorable experiences every single day. See all we do at ronjaworskigolf.com.
It's happening again. Those missed tackles are starting to stack up. Your friends pleading with players who can't hear them. Sweating it out week after week. But not you. Why? Because whether they score or not, there's always another way to win on the betPARX app. New casino users score up to $1,000 bonus back in their first 24 hours.
At Ponley Hockey, we're neither a pawn nor a hockey team. In fact, I don't even know how to skate.
Cut.
We're the injury law firm that you want fighting for you.
With our vast network of attorneys across the country, we know the playbook on injury law.
It's how Ponley Hockey recovered billions of dollars for more than 100,000 injured and disabled workers.
And we know we can do the same for you.
So give Ponley Hockey a call. No other law firm will fight harder for you.
And you'll never pay a dime until we win.
It's the most wonderful time with the kids jingle. Be of good cheer. It's the most wonderful.
Whether your phone's broken or old, we've got you. With Verizon, anyone can trade in any phone, any condition. And get iPhone 16 Pro with Apple Intelligence on us. And iPad and Apple Watch Series 10, all three on us. That's up to $2,000 in value, only on Verizon.
Hello?
This upcoming segment is brought to you by Stay at Home Home Care. Welcome back to the betPARX postgame show presented by Ponley Hockey from Parx Casino in Bensalem, just 20 minutes north of Center City, Philadelphia. Before we go any further, we want to make sure that we give a hat tip to one of our fine sponsors, Jerry LaHockey. And Seth, I know you want to talk about this gentleman and all he does for us.
Well, we appreciate all of our sponsors, but recently, 2 weeks ago, Jerry LaHockey was inducted into the Labor Hall of Fame. And there you go right there, the Philadelphia Legends of Labor Hall of Fame. You see Tom Giordano, Jerry LaHockey right there right next to me, and Sam Pond. Just want to make sure that, we can congratulate Jerry and say thank you to Pond LaHockey for their partnership, with our pre- and post-game show here.
Yeah, congratulations, Jerry. Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
Here's to you.
Congrats.
Congrats on that. And the Eagles obviously honor him with a victory. Folks, when you look at this game tonight, and we're going to be thinking about, obviously, moving on to the Carolina Panthers in 24 hours with the Jalen Hurts 24-hour rule. But when you think about a takeaway from this game, what stood out to you the most about what the Eagles were able to accomplish tonight, Seth?
Defensively. I mean, to be able to hold this defense down, Derrick talked about it earlier. They're averaging 226 yards per game, number one in the NFL in total yardage. It's just I just go through, my numbers here. They're second in points. They're averaging 30 points a game. They're 46% on third down. That's third in the National Football League. They're 78% in the red zone. That's first in the NFL. And the Eagles forced, a bunch of field goals that were missed. They were second behind the Eagles in rushing going into this game at 180 yards per game and 246 yards passing per game. and that ranks third. They were below all of those numbers by the Eagles today. The Eagles held them below their season averages in every single statistical category. You just got to tip your hat and give kudos, to this Eagles defense.
I can't say it any better. I expected Baltimore to put up more points. I also expected Eagles put up more points as well. You held one of the most explosive offenses in the NFL to 12 points, 12 meaningful points. I'm not counting that last touchdown. You stonewall them at every turn. They were the number one red zone offense. They were only 2 for 5. You had 5 opportunities in the red zone. 78% clip. That could have been game-changing as well in favor of Baltimore. The Eagles' defense, time and time again, as they've done over this 7-8 game winning streak, they have found the necessary ways to stop offenses. They have made the big plays when they've had to. Batting down the passes, tackles for a loss, quarterback sacks. They have done everything they have to do, and they've kept opponents well under the season averages in terms of yards and points accumulated. You can't put it any simpler than that.
Mm-hmm. No, and it seems like everyone is clicking on all cylinders right now. Guys that are supposed to be the next man up, and we talked about it earlier in the show, guys like Nolan Smith, guys like Jalen Hunt had a half sack today, and the opportunity that he got, the opportunity was laying there at his feet before the game, and he showed up to play tonight. This team does have a lot of tendencies I have seen to teams like the 2022 Philadelphia Eagles that went to the Super Bowl and lost, the 2017 Philadelphia Eagles that went to the Super Bowl and won. They just wait for their opportunity, and nobody wants to be the person that either literally or metaphorically drops the ball. And that motivation, Seth, can't just come from coaches. That has to also come, as you were talking about, pressure from other teammates. Guys that don't want to be the player to drop the ball and make sure they're carrying the banner throughout the rest of the season.
Well, expectation. You can tell that this team is prepared each and every week. Nobody wants to walk in that meeting room on Monday and observe plays where they're not holding up their end of the bargain. Everybody across the board trying to do their own job. Everybody across the board being prepared. You just, to your point, you don't want to be that guy. And when you're playing for a team, whose mentality is like that, where the expectation is that this is the way that we play. I'm always, when this sort of thing comes up, D-Gun, I'm always reminded of my last year in Denver. And Mike Shanahan was not the type of coach that ever yelled and screamed about anything. And I think it was Shannon Sharp. I'm like, man, Mike is he always calm, cool, and collected like this? He was like, listen, man, we got a standard here. This is the standard. Everybody's got to live up to the standard. And they don't yell and they don't scream and they don't coddle pride, because if you don't live up to the standard, they get your ass up out of here. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow. So when I look at this team and I think about, this defense and I think about this offense, in a lot of ways, that's what it is. You're not going to win every single battle. I tell people all the time, we're graded. Players are graded, on a 100% scale. Nobody plays to 100%. If you grade out to 85%, you played an outstanding game, because the other guys on the other side, they're athletes, they're big, they're strong, they're fast, and they get paid to get the job done as well, okay? But what people don't realize, if you play 75% of your plays really well and you can get that done across the board in all 3 phases, you're more than likely you're going to win football games.
I'm looking at the better teams in the National Football League, and when we look at this Eagles team that's now 10-2, they are taking it to the opposition when they have to. I look at the defending champions, Kansas City. They're not playing anywhere near the expectation we've been accustomed to, and yet they sit there at 11-1 right
They remind me of last year's Eagles, to be honest with you. Finding ways to win more so than controlling.
Yeah, and I don't see Kansas City falling like the Eagles did last year.
I agree with that.
And I don't, and their defense ain't anywhere as near as bad.
No. Their defense, Kansas City's defense is winning them
Saves
games.
them.
It's
Exactly.
saving them. I look at Detroit. Detroit earns its wins. Mm-hmm. There's no givens. Sometimes they're lucky. Hey, every team in the National Football League is lucky at some point. Luck still counts in the win column, right, to get you where you need to go. I look at a team like Buffalo. I still don't know what Buffalo is yet. They're 9-2. Last I saw, they're winning against San Francisco tonight in a snowstorm. Buffalo is a good young team. They had to get younger to get better, like the Eagles did. But see, I don't see enough of Buffalo to see are they that dominant to be 9-2 or how well. Pittsburgh, another team. Pittsburgh just clamps down on teams. You know, it's a typical Mike Tomlin team. That's why they're 9-3. You know, I was shocked they scored 44 points today. I thought it was going to be one of those low-scoring games, like they always win, 20-16, like they beat Baltimore 18-16 a few weeks ago. You know, so, but this Eagles team is consistently taking it to opponents, and that's a good thing when you're in a stretch run, because it's obvious unless they do a major collapse, which I don't think in any way, shape, or form is going to happen. They won a division already. Mm-hmm. There's nobody to challenge them in the division. Even if they happen to lose to, say, Washington, they're still going to win this division. They're still going to be the number 2 seed in the NFC, possibly the number 1, because Detroit has a much tougher schedule down the road than the Eagles do. The Eagles could end up being the number 1 seed, which means you'd only have to play 2 games instead of 3.
Which would be welcome for the
Absolutely, especially in your own backyard.
Now, let me ask this. Let's go back 8 games. The Eagles haven't won 8 games in a row yet. They're coming out of that bye week, of course, after an awful loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're all screaming about Nick Sirianni. They just beat the Browns. He's yelling at the fans. Things are going absolutely bonkers for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, all of a sudden, listen to this, gentlemen. Nick Sirianni is the 8th NFL head coach to produce 10-2 starts or better in 3 straight seasons, joining the likes of Sean Payton, Bill Belichick, Tony Dungy, Mike Shanahan, Mike Ditka, John Madden, and Curly Lambeau in 1929 to 1932.
Hall of Fame company.
I know it's a common joke of what is it you say you do here and all that, but Nick Sirianni just seems to get these players focused and ready to play. What is it that you notice from him that makes him this successful?
Well, I think anytime that he's under attack, his players come to his defense. You know, we've talked about this before. We talked about it with Doug Peterson when Mark Lombardi a couple of years ago said that, you know, he wasn't fit to be an NFL coach, and his players came to his defense. You know, that taught me a valuable lesson. You know, my eyes may tell me one thing, but I know for a fact that players only follow and support a coach that they believe in. And for the amount of players, I should say, that came to Doug Peterson's, you know, defense, that forced me to look at the situation a little bit differently, because we can be on the outside looking in and have an idea about what we think is going on, but he's the guy that stands in front of those players every single day. He's the one that's motivating those players every day. And when you see the fruits of the words that he speaks to them being manifested out on the field, that speaks volumes about how much of the football team believes in what he's selling them. And that's everything, because a player will not play for a coach that he does not believe in. If he's not buying what they're selling, if he doesn't think that he can, first of all, if a player doesn't think that the team can be successful, and secondly, and sometimes more importantly, they don't feel like they can be successful in the schematics of what's going on, then they won't play for a coach. But for this team to be 2-2, for Nick to go through all the things that he went through that 4-game stint, to go on their bye and then come back and reel off 8 games in a row and dominate the way they dominated today, you know, I think that people have to begin to look at Nick in a different way and acknowledge his ability to adjust how he's acted and the things that he's said, you know, publicly, and how it's affected his football team and got them to play the way that they've played over an 8-game span.
We're sorry, Nick. We didn't mean it. We were just joking. And don't take it personal, Nick.
No. What he said and what he did in that minute warranted, in those situations, warranted the scrutiny that he was under. What I'm saying is I give him a lot of credit, D-Gun, because he's walked a lot of those things back, and he's a better coach for having gone through it and having done it.
Yeah, I was just playing. Yeah, I was just playing, Seth.
I got you.
Okay. Now, I think he does a good job of getting out of the way. I think that's the easiest way I can put it. I mean, he's the head guy in charge, and we don't know exactly.
But is that a compliment?
What? Yes, because early in the season we were talking about he has too much input. With some of the decisions he was making, we were talking about why is he making a decision? Why does he have a part in calling the plays? I think as Seth said, walked it back. I think he knows when. I think he does a better job now of knowing when to step to the forefront and when to step back into the shadows. And
Fair enough.
What did you just ask him? You asked him, is that a...
I said, is that a compliment?
Yes.
No, I think
Gets out of the way.
I think,
believe was the, yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I think it is a compliment because really, when you look at football, as a head coach, it should always be about your players, okay? The things that he got into that caused so much scrutiny, it wasn't about his team winning or his team losing. It was about him. And the focus should never be on the head coach. The focus should always be on those 53 players that are on the field that are getting it done. Because a coach can't do anything as far as his players are concerned but take the chess piece and put it in place and hope that that player performs. Now, if he's doing that, then the wins will amount. Just like the stats that you just read off, the accolades will come. He doesn't have to do anything or say anything to bring attention to himself. Allow his players and what they're doing on the field to speak volumes about the job that he's doing, and he'll always reap the rewards of that.
So 2 things I'll credit to the Eagles' turnaround then. I'll credit Nick Sirianni's open-door policy and his ability to listen to players and take their advice. And, of course, Derrick Gunn regrowing his mustache without question. Now 8-0. Now 8-0, ladies and gentlemen.
You know me. Just like leave it there. Come on, man. You gotta line up.
Line it up.
It's like Deion Sanders before they go out. He said, "Let me get my theme music." No. Let D Gunn get his mustache on.
You know, if you're gonna put the mustache on me, you gotta play my theme music. Also.
Oh boy,
I need the theme music.
What would your theme be? What would it be?
Oh, Return of the Mac.
Hey, next week.
Return of the Mac.
Next
That's my
week.
theme music.
We need that next week.
You know what I'm saying?
We need that next
totally,
week.
we'll get licensing. We'll get licensing.
We're gonna get flagged for it, but we're gonna put it on.
We got 8 seconds? We got 8 seconds.
You know what? You do that. I might have to bring in a top hat and a cane and like the old running back Frenchie Fuqua. Remember he had the platform shoes with the goldfish in the heel.
The black Monopoly man over
there. There you go. That's what I'm talking about, baby.
Get you a cane.
That's what I'm talking about. Oh man! All right, you know it's time to go. Now.
I think it's a wrap. Ladies and gentlemen, your Philadelphia Eagles won 24-19. They won their 8th in a row. Open door policy, mustache, it all goes together. For Seth Joyner, for Derrick Gunn, my name is. Oh! How dare I forget? We got our tickets, right? You're going to be giving them away later this week?
No, we're going to give them away later on this week. Listen, we promoted enough. Pre-game, post-game, we good. Let's get out of here.
That's right. Carolina Panthers game coming up. Tickets courtesy of Seth Joyner Show. Make sure you're following Seth on all social media platforms. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, everyone. Greatly appreciated. For Seth Joyner, for Derrick Gunn, for our great crew here, Bailey Livesey included. My name is Marc Farzetta. Have a great week. Go Birds.